The arrest of the suspected Golden State Killer the last week is a testimony to human perseverance in the search for justice. It took 40 years to identify the suspect, Joseph James DeAngelo, who at age 72 was living in seeming obscurity in a Sacramento suburb when police finally arrested him in what could prove to be the savage murders of 12 people and the rapes of 45 women. And it was persistence among a small band of investigators, victims' families and citizens who wouldn't let these chilling crimes fade further into obscurity that kept the case alive until DNA evidence could bring the swirl of possible leads and dead ends to a final resolution. And, as you read in this newspaper last week, a Santa Cruz woman finally heard the news she had thought would never come. "They got him," was the text from a friend sent to Jennifer Carroll. Her father and stepmother had been murdered inside their Ventura home in 1980. Their deaths were not even connected to the serial killer rapist who became known as the Golden State Killer for nearly 20 years. And it took another 18 years before DeAngelo was linked to the crimes. DeAngelo's motives and modus operandi are already being discussed: revenge over being jilted by a girlfriend, an ex-cop from a small town who had an insider's knowledge of how to plan his assaults and then escape, and the apparent end to the violence and murderous rage in 1986. The crime spree spanned 10 counties, from northern to southern California, starting in the late 1970s. For Santa Cruz's Jennifer Carroll, the ultimate break in the case came out of the blue, when she got a call from the Ventura County District Attorney's office telling her DeAngelo had been arrested and that the DNA link was ironclad. What are we to make of a case that took so long to unravel? But when it did, the denouement came swiftly. Primarily, it was the persistence of law enforcement. Almost all major law enforcement agencies, including in this county, keep so-called cold cases somewhat warm, with the door never closing in terms of seeking new information and leads. In this case, however, the efforts were aided immeasurably by new attention, including a book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, that reached No. 1 on the New York Times bestseller list this year. Sadly, the author of the book, Michelle McNamara, the wife of comedian Patton Oswalt, died in 2016 before it was published or the case apparently solved. The book ends in a letter she hoped would get to the perpetrator once he was captured, concluding, "This is how it ends for you." It would not have ended, however, without DNA evidence. DNA samples from crime scenes connected to the killer rapist were still available and eventually matched with a sample obtained from material discarded by DeAngelo. Advertisement: it was the virtual certainty that DNA would eventually provide the answer that kept hope alive among law enforcement officials, who convened a task force in 2016 on the 40th anniversary of the first crime to renew their determination to solve the case. It was DNA that also led to the Monterey County arrest in 2017 of Charles Holyfield, for the kidnapping and murder of 13-year-old Christina Williams of Seaside, some 19 years before. Holyfield is a convicted rapist and kidnapper who was in prison when arrested. He had long been considered a suspect in Christina Williams' disappearance, but after a Monterey County cold case team in 2016 requested items of physical evidence be retested, a DNA match was finally made. There are still cold cases waiting to be solved, and we hope the persistence shown in the DeAngelo and Holyfield cases will bring resolution to these as well. And DNA testing needs to be fully funded. One start is for legislators to pass Senate Bill 1449, that requires all new rape kits to be sent to crime labs.